You followed every rule. You got down to their level. You validated their feelings. You used your calm voice even when you were screaming on the inside. And still, your child looked you dead in the eye and did exactly what you told them not to do. If that sounds familiar, you are not failing as a parent. You are parenting a strong-willed child with a tool that was never designed for them. Gentle parenting changed the conversation around childhood discipline. It moved families away from fear-based control and toward emotional connection. And for many children, it works beautifully. But for a specific type of child, the ones with ironclad opinions, explosive reactions, and an almost supernatural resistance to being told what to do, gentle parenting alone does not just fall short. It can actually make things worse. If you are a parent who makes decisions based on data, not instinct, subscribe. This channel is built for you. Before we talk about what works, we need to understand what we are actually dealing with. Strong-willed children are not broken. They are not bad. They are neurologically different in ways that matter enormously for how they respond to parenting strategies. Research in developmental psychology identifies strong-willed children as having what scientists call high autonomy drive, a deeply wired need to feel in control of their own choices and environment. Their brains show heightened activity in the prefrontal cortex regions associated with decision-making and resistance to external authority. In plain language, their brain is literally fighting harder against perceived control than the average child's brain does. A 2019 study published in the journal Child Development found that children with high autonomy drive showed significantly lower compliance rates when parents used validation-heavy, low-boundary communication styles. The same children showed dramatically higher cooperation when given structured choices within firm limits. That is not a parenting opinion. That is neuroscience. And here is where gentle parenting, as most parents practice it, runs into serious trouble. Gentle parenting at its core is built on 4 pillars: empathy, respect, understanding, and boundaries. The problem is not the philosophy. The problem is the execution. Most parents who adopt gentle parenting lean heavily into the first 3 pillars and quietly abandon the 4th. Boundaries become suggestions. Consequences become negotiations. And for a strong-willed child, that is not safety. That is an invitation to push harder. Think about what happens in a typical, gentle parenting moment with a strong-willed child. The child refuses to leave the playground. The parent crouches down, makes eye contact, and says something like, "I understand you're having so much fun. Can you help me understand how you're feeling right now?" The child says no and runs in the opposite direction. The parent follows, re-explains, validates again, offers a 5-minute warning, then a 3-minute warning, then a 1-minute warning. 25 minutes later, they are still at the playground. What the child learned in that moment is not emotional regulation. What they learned is that resistance works. Every cycle of extended negotiation rewires the strong-willed child's brain to expect that boundaries are starting points, not endpoints. And the more that pattern repeats, the harder the behavior becomes to redirect. So what does work? The answer sits at the intersection of 3 evidence-based frameworks: collaborative problem-solving, developed by Dr. Ross Greene; authoritative parenting research, pioneered by Diana Baumrind; and behavioral activation science, rooted in cognitive behavioral psychology. Let's break each one down. Dr. Ross Greene's collaborative problem-solving model, validated across more than 30 years of clinical research, operates on a foundational premise: kids do well when they can. Strong-willed children are not choosing defiance for the pleasure of it. They are lacking the cognitive flexibility or frustration tolerance to respond differently in that moment. Greene's model invites parents to solve problems with the child, not at the child. That means sitting down outside of conflict moments and genuinely asking, "What's making this hard for you?" And then listening, not to redirect, but to actually understand. When children feel heard at the problem-solving level, their resistance at the behavioral level drops significantly. Diana Baumrind's decades of research on parenting styles consistently shows that authoritative parenting, high warmth combined with high structure, produces the best outcomes for strong-willed children, not permissive, not authoritarian, authoritative. Warmth without structure creates chaos. Structure without warmth creates rebellion. The combination creates cooperation. And behavioral activation science tells us something critical about strong-willed children specifically. They respond to earned autonomy far more powerfully than they respond to emotional validation alone. When a child earns real decision-making power through demonstrated responsibility, their brain's reward system activates in ways that make cooperation feel intrinsically motivating rather than externally imposed. Repair does not have to be complicated, but it does have to be real. Here is a concrete example. Your child had a meltdown at the park. You held the limit. They screamed the whole way to the car, and now you are home. 20 minutes later, they wander into the kitchen. This is the moment. You do not bring up what happened. You do not say, "Are you ready to talk about your behavior?" You simply make contact. You might put a hand on their shoulder and say, "Hey, want to help me with dinner?" Or you sit next to them and ask about something they care about, a game, a show, a friend. What you are communicating without words is this: the conflict is over. I am not holding it against you, and you are still my favorite person to be around. For some children, a direct but brief statement lands better. Something like, "That was a hard afternoon. I love you. We're good." Short, warm, no strings attached. The goal is not to process the event. The goal is to restore the felt sense of safety between you. Strong-willed children who experience consistent repair after conflict learn something essential: that the relationship can hold tension without breaking. That knowledge is what makes them willing to try again tomorrow. Here is the reframe that changes everything. The traits that make a strong-willed child so exhausting to parent right now are the exact traits that will make them extraordinary adults. Research from the University of Luxembourg tracked strong-willed children into adulthood and found they were significantly more likely to be financially successful, professionally independent, and resistant to negative peer pressure. The child who argues every rule is developing the critical thinking that will serve them for life. The child who refuses to back down is building the resilience that most adults spend years trying to cultivate. The goal of parenting is not raising comfortable children. It is raising capable adults. Gentle parenting gave us something invaluable. It reminded us that children deserve dignity, empathy, and emotional attunement. But dignity without direction is not parenting. It is hoping. Strong-willed children do not need less structure because they push against it. They need more structure delivered with more warmth. They need parents who are secure enough to hold a limit and loving enough to repair after conflict. They need a parent who understands that the relationship and the boundary are not opposites. They are partners. If you want parenting advice rooted in psychology, behavioral science, and real-world experience, subscribe to the Parent Lab. Because the future of your child is too important for guesswork. This is the Parent Lab, where behavior is studied, not guessed. Like and subscribe for more of the good stuff.